Have you ever wondered how close the mighty Norse gods came to their end, long before the final battle of Ragnarok? It wasn't a monstrous frost giant or a prophecy of doom, but a simple trick, a single act of betrayal that almost wiped them out forever. This is the story of the theft of Idun's apples and how Loki, the trickster god, nearly destroyed them all. Our tale begins on a seemingly ordinary day. The All-Father Odin, his wise brother Hoenir, and the ever-unpredictable Loki were traveling through Midgard, the world of mortals. Weary and hungry, they spotted a fine herd of oxen. Deciding on a hearty meal, they prepared one for roasting over a fire, but something was wrong. Hours passed, the fire blazed, yet the meat remained stubbornly raw. It simply would not cook. Puzzled and frustrated, they suddenly heard a voice from the branches of a great oak tree above them. "It is I who prevents your meat from cooking," it boomed. They looked up to see an enormous eagle, larger than any they had ever seen. "Give me my fair share," the eagle screeched, "and your meal will be ready." The gods, hungry and tired, had little choice but to agree. As soon as they did, the ox meat began to sizzle and brown. But when the eagle swooped down, it didn't just take a fair share. It snatched up the two best thighs and the two best shoulders, the prime cuts, for itself. This was too much for Loki. His quick temper flared. "Thief!" he yelled, grabbing a long, sturdy branch. He swung with all his might, striking the eagle's back. But in that instant, something strange happened. The branch magically stuck fast to the eagle's feathers, and Loki's hands were glued to the other end of the branch. The giant eagle let out a triumphant cry and launched itself into the sky, with Loki dangling helplessly behind. The eagle, who was none other than the giant Thjazi in disguise, dragged Loki on a terrifying flight. He flew low, just high enough to slam Loki against jagged mountain peaks, drag him through thorny forests, and scrape him over rough, stony ground. Loki screamed, his arms feeling as if they were being torn from their sockets. He begged for mercy, pleading with the eagle to let him go. Finally, Thjazi spoke. "I will release you," the giant's voice echoed in the wind, "but only on one condition. You must swear a solemn oath to lure the goddess Idun and her golden apples out of Asgard." Loki's blood ran cold. Idun was the gentle goddess of youth, and her golden apples were the god's most precious treasure. It was these apples, and these alone, that kept them eternally young and powerful. Without them, they would wither and age just like mortals. Betraying Idun meant betraying all of Asgard. It meant condemning his fellow gods to a slow, miserable decline. But the alternative was this endless, agonizing torment, being dragged across the world until he was torn apart. Faced with an impossible choice, Loki's self-preservation won. He swore the oath. Thjazi released him, and a bruised, battered Loki limped his way back to Asgard, his mind already spinning a web of deceit. A few days later, Loki approached the suite, trusting Idun in her sacred grove. "Idun, my dear," he began, his voice dripping with false excitement, "I have made the most incredible discovery. In a forest not far from here, I found an apple tree. And the apples ... Oh, you wouldn't believe them. They make yours look common and dull." Idun, who had never known her apples to have a rival, looked skeptical. "You must bring your basket," Loki insisted. "We must go and compare them. I am certain that once you see these other apples, you will agree they are far superior." His words were like a subtle poison, planting a seed of doubt and curiosity in Idun's mind. She, who was so pure of heart, couldn't imagine Loki would lie about something so important. Trusting him completely, she gathered her precious basket of golden apples and followed Loki out of the protected walls of Asgard and into the darkening woods. As they ventured deeper, a great shadow fell over them. The wind howled, and the massive form of Thjazi, now in his true giant shape, burst from the trees. He snatched the terrified Idun, basket and all, and carried her away to his desolate stronghold in Jotunheim, the land of giants. Back in Asgard, the effect of her absence was immediate and catastrophic. At first, it was subtle, a strand of gray in Thor's golden beard, a new line around Freya's beautiful eyes, but soon, the decay accelerated. The gods' divine strength began to fail them. Their skin wrinkled, their backs stooped, and their vibrant energy faded into weary exhaustion. The halls of Asgard, once filled with laughter and vitality, grew quiet and grim as the Aesir and Hoenir faced the terrifying reality of old age and mortality. Panic set in. Where was Idun? Why had their youth abandoned them? The gods held a council, their voices frail and cracking. They pieced together the last time anyone had seen Idun. The trail led directly to one person, Loki. All eyes, now dim and angry, turned to him. Odin, his one eye blazing with a cold fire, delivered the ultimatum. You caused this, Loki, his voice rasped with age. You will bring Idun and her apples back, or you will face a torment so horrific that your flight with Thjazi will seem like a pleasant dream. You will die, screaming, every single day for eternity. Fear, more potent than any he had ever known, seized Loki. He had no choice but to fix the disaster he had created. He went to Freya, the goddess of love, and begged to borrow her most prized possession, her magical falcon cloak, which allowed the wearer to transform into a falcon and fly at incredible speeds. Seeing the desperation of their plight, Freya agreed. Loki wrapped the cloak around his shoulders, and in a blur of feathers, he was gone, soaring towards the frozen wastes of Jotunheim. He flew for what felt like an eternity, his falcon eyes scanning the bleak landscape. Finally, he spotted Thjazi's fortress, a grim tower of ice and stone. He circled high above, waiting for his chance. Luck was with him. Thjazi had gone out to sea to fish, leaving Idun alone and weeping in the tower. Loki swooped down, landing on a windowsill. He transformed back into his own shape just long enough to use his magic. He turned the terrified Idun into a small, simple nut, clutched her carefully in his falcon talons, and launched himself back into the air, flying for Asgard with all his might. But Thjazi, returning home, saw the falcon flying away. Realizing he had been tricked, he let out a roar of pure fury, transformed back into his massive eagle form, and gave chase. The pursuit was frantic. The giant eagle was powerful and relentless, gaining on the smaller falcon with every beat of its massive wings. From the walls of Asgard, the aging gods watched the desperate race unfold in the sky. They could see Loki's falcon form straining, and the great eagle of Thjazi closing in for the kill. Acting fast, they gathered piles of wood shavings and dry kindling all along the top of Asgard's walls. They waited, breath held, as Loki, with a final burst of speed, shot over the wall and collapsed in a heap on the ground inside. The moment he was clear, the gods lit the shavings. A massive wall of fire roared up into the sky, just as Thjazi, blinded by his rage and speed, flew straight into it. His wings, coated in oil and feathers, burst into flames. The great eagle tumbled from the sky, crashing within Asgard's walls. Before the giant could recover, the gods, led by a revitalized Thor, fell upon him and ended him. Loki quickly transformed Idun back to her true form. She opened her basket, and the gods, one by one, took a bite of the golden apples. Instantly, their youth and vigor returned. The wrinkles vanished, their hair regained its luster, and strength surged through their limbs. Asgard was saved, but the story doesn't end there. Every action has a consequence. When news of Thjazi's death reached his daughter, the fierce giantess Skadi, she armed herself and marched on Asgard, demanding justice for her father. To appease her, the gods offered her a husband from among them, leading to the unhappy marriage with the sea god Njord. This event, and Loki's role in it, planted a seed of bitterness that would fester and grow, eventually contributing to the chain of events that would lead to Loki's binding, and ultimately, to the twilight of the gods themselves. Loki had saved the day, but his initial betrayal was a dark omen of the end times to come. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into Norse mythology, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more tales of gods, giants, and heroes. See you next time.